Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
Senora Arias was furious. Natalia, don't you understand? We need to get a new car for the family. Mom, let it be. I'm not against it. I give you half of my salary, and with the remaining half, I fully support myself. And haven't you forgotten that you only cook for two people, yourself and Dad? How dare you? Senora Arias choked with anger. Are you mocking us with your pennies? What about the fact that we raised you, clothed and fed you your whole life? Have you forgotten about that? Mom, let me say something banal, but I didn't ask to be born, you know? Giving birth to someone and then blaming them their whole life for being born and living, that's wrong. Are you going to tell me what's right and wrong? Where are you going and what is this new dress you're wearing? I've never seen you wear something like that before. This dress, Mom, I bought it for myself because I go to work where there are people and they pay attention to what others are wearing. And also because I'm 25 years old, I earn well, but I can't afford practically anything for myself. Natalia stormed out of the door and stomped down the stairs in her heels. Senora Arias couldn't let the last word be left with her daughter. She leaned out onto the landing and shouted to the entire building. Ungrateful girl, how dare you? May you never find peace until you realize your behavior. She slammed the door loudly and then went into her room, preparing to continue the argument. But this time with her husband. As she thought, Senor Marin was sitting in his armchair, reading the newspaper. Oscar? No emotion, so she moved towards him, and only then did her husband notice her. He quickly took out his earplugs. Anna, what happened? Why do you look so upset? Why do I look upset? So, you put in earplugs to avoid being bothered and calmly wait until this ungrateful girl disrespects me? Anna, you're confusing something. Natalia is a good girl, and I've never heard her disrespecting anyone. So, it's me who's being disrespectful. Me? No, come on, Anna, it seems like you just didn't understand each other, Senor Marin sighed heavily. To be honest, he was so tired of the constant arguments his wife started out of nowhere. He genuinely felt sorry for Anna, but getting involved would mean signing his own death sentence, and he wasn't young enough to constantly be under stress. Especially since anything could be expected from Anna. Senora Arias sat on the couch, and Oscar approached her. Why do you keep pressuring her? She's young, she wants to dress up, go out. Are you out of your mind? Don't you understand that she lacks seriousness? The more money she has, the more she'll want to experiment. Can't you see that she's going down the wrong path? Anna, come on, Natalia is a serious girl, she's no longer 18. Let her learn to live independently, not under your control. The more you try to control her, the more she'll resist. Oscar, go take out the trash and don't meddle in the upbringing process. Senora Arias didn't enjoy listening to her husband's words. Somewhere deep down, she understood that he might be right, but she didn't want to admit it. Natalia walked down the street, nearly in tears. Why did everyone else have normal families, normal parents, while she had to deal with all of this? After all, if she told someone, they wouldn't believe her. And how could she even tell such things? Only one person knew everything, her best friend Carla. Carla was the complete opposite of Natalia. If Natalia was shy, modest, and preferred to remain silent, Carla never held back any word, including strong ones. She always said whatever she thought. And she said it to your face. Carla wasn't a gossip girl, she didn't dish the dirt, didn't discuss people's outfits. She was always ready to help, but she could also give you a piece of her mind immediately. Her involvement in sports since early childhood greatly contributed to that. Due to her straightforwardness, Carla mainly socialized with boys, and Natalia was her only female friend. It was precisely towards Carla that Natalia was heading now. As soon as her friend opened the door, Natalia couldn't hold back anymore and burst into tears. Carla sighed. Again? Natalia nodded. Come in already. I don't understand why you allow yourself to be treated this way. Natalia cried even louder, and Carla pushed her into the room. All right, I won't say anything. Carla made coffee and waited for the hysterics to subside. She deliberately didn't comfort her friend, hoping that someday she would get tired of this life and constant tears, and she would mature enough to move out from her parents. However, so far, it had been completely futile. Well, tell me, what happened this time? Same old, same old. Natalia recounted her recent conversation with her mother. So, you gave her half of your salary again? Yes. And what triggered the whole commotion? Someone told her that the company was giving out bonuses. I hope you didn't give her the bonus? Natalia shook her head. No, and that's when it all started. Natalia, tell me, aren't you tired of this? I mean, it would be understandable if you were 16. But like this, what's the matter? Do you enjoy tormenting yourself? No, but what can I do? Rent an apartment and live peacefully. Do you think she won't find me there? Well, firstly, don't tell her the address, and secondly, it will be your own place, at least as long as you're paying for it. Natalia remained silent, and Carla looked at her in surprise. Wow, you've really matured, haven't you? The girl shrugged. What do I have to lose? It can't get any worse than it already is. All right, let's urgently start looking for an apartment for you. 2 hours later, the friends were rushing to view an apartment. They decided that it didn't matter what it looked like on the inside, as long as the price was suitable, they could tidy it up themselves. They liked the small apartment. It was tiny, but it had its own balcony, and that was not just an added space, it was a whole world of its own. Carla immediately said, I can already imagine us drinking coffee on this balcony and enjoying the view of the city. Natalia looked at the balcony and laughed. Yeah, quite a view we have here. Carla quickly came over, looked out, and laughed along with her friend. The balcony overlooked a dumpster where garbage from nearby buildings was dumped, and consequently, homeless people rummaged around there. Well, what can we do? That's life. Maybe we'll write a scientific paper on this topic. The strict landlady sighed. Natalia, don't get too comfortable here. I live on the other side of the city, and I really don't want to keep coming over because of complaints from neighbors. At first, Natalia didn't understand what she meant, and only then it dawned on her. She smiled. Everything will be fine, you don't have to worry. Natalia didn't understand at all what it meant to make noise. In her parents' house, she lived very quietly, her mother had the final say, and even her father tried not to contradict her. Natalia couldn't understand why he put up with it. After all, her father was more humane than her mother. Natalia often asked herself the question, can someone really not love their own children? She didn't have an answer. When Natalia and Carla were alone, Natalia sat down and sighed. It seems like my courage has run out. How am I going to tell my parents everything now? Carla waved her hand. She generally took everything in life much easier than her friend. Natalia envied her at times. Oh, if only she had such character, such resilience. Why are you creating a problem out of nothing? Just ask for time off when they're at work, pack your things, and move out. If you're afraid to talk, write them a note. Oh, right. I'll write them a note. But Natalia couldn't do it the way her friend advised. She did ask for time off, moved her necessary belongings, but in the evening she came back to talk to her parents. They both arrived home from work at the same time, and Natalia came out of her room. Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something. Senora Arias gasped. I knew it, you're pregnant, you got involved with a bad crowd. Her mother yelled without stopping. Oscar and Natalia patiently waited. Natalia was amazed at herself. She was completely calm, knowing that she just had to get through an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and then she would be able to enjoy the silence, watch TV peacefully, and actually live instead of sitting locked in her room. Just a few days ago, the girl couldn't even dream of this, and now it was almost a reality. No, not almost a reality, just one conversation left, and that was it. Finally, her mother fell silent to take a sip of water. Natalia immediately spoke up. I'm already an adult, and it's time for me to live independently, so I rented an apartment and I'm moving out today. It seemed that Senora Arias had reached her limit, but Natalia's father approached her, hugged her, and said, You're right, Natalia, it's about time. He knew very well that his wife would now shift her focus to him. He whispered to his daughter, Run, I'll take the heat. Natalia gratefully looked at him. They never had a particularly close relationship, but he never pressured her like her mother did. Oscar, what are you saying? You should lock her in her room until she comes to her senses. She practically went after her husband, and Natalia, winking at her father, dashed down the stairs. She hadn't run like this since she was a child. Then her mother said that decent girls don't behave like that. Of course, she said it in front of everyone, and not in the most cultured words. After that, Natalia lost her desire to run up and down the stairs. It seemed to her that her mother's screams could be heard even on the other side of the street, or so it seemed, but her legs carried her swiftly. Only when she reached the courtyard where she rented the apartment did the girl catch her breath. That's it, now she was safe. Feeling free was so pleasant that Natalia's head started spinning. She wanted to savor this euphoria a little longer. She decided that her belongings could wait, and she could afford to sit in the courtyard for a while. Her mother wasn't here, and it was unlikely she would be able to find her. Natalia sat on a bench and smiled to herself. Right away, a little puppy, one of those breeds with bows tied on their heads, ran up to her feet. Oh, who are you? The puppy wagged its tail like appendage and jumped into her arms. It was well-groomed and clean, which meant it definitely belonged to someone. Natalia looked at this unabashed audacity with astonishment, while the puppy seemed to calm down as if it had found what it was looking for. Whose are you? Where's your owner? Natalia smiled. How could she not smile, looking at such a cutie? The little dog barked cheerfully and settled more comfortably in Natalia's arms. She glanced around and almost immediately spotted the presumed owner. A man in his 30s rushed into the courtyard. He was looking around and calling someone, although it was hard to make out whom he was calling. When he turned towards Natalia, she waved her hand, with the other hand holding the puppy that decided to take a rest. The man immediately rushed towards them, his face looking upset and even frightened. I'm sorry, Blancanieves is used to female company. She always tries to find a place in one of the girl's arms. I apologize. He reached out his hand, but Blanca turned away from him so demonstratively that it was clear they had long-standing disagreements. Natalia smiled almost imperceptibly, while the little dog was certainly having her way with her owner, and not just any way. Don't scold her, she'll rest for a bit and then she'll come with you. He sighed and sat down next to them. He was breathing heavily, indicating that he had been running for a long time until he found the runaway. You see, I have a lot of work, but I try to make sure Blancanieves isn't alone for long. I even take her with me sometimes, to work, but she still gets upset. I wasn't home this morning, and as soon as I arrived, I took her out for a walk, and look how she treats me. By the way, my name is Romano, and yours? I'm Natalia. Blanca turned around on Natalia's lap and deliberately turned away from Romano. He gently stroked her back. Blancanieves, be a good girl, let's go home. The dog nuzzled Natalia's hand a little more forcefully, and she laughed. Blancanieves, I haven't eaten anything since morning, have a heart. The dog didn't react, but Natalia's stomach growled loudly after the mention of food. She felt embarrassed, and Romano laughed. Looks like I'm not the only one who's hungry. You know what? Maybe you could join me. There's a small open-air cafe nearby, and we could walk there and grab something to eat. Perhaps Blanca will forgive me during that time. Natalia looked at him in surprise. She wanted to refuse, but then remembered that now she was independent and no one would scold her for being 2 minutes late. Well, let's go. I also forgot to eat today. Blancanieves was carried by Natalia to the cafe, and when they sat down, she jumped onto an empty chair, as if she were also a visitor, which amused both Romano and Natalia. They ordered substantial meals and eagerly started eating. After tasting a chicken wing from Romano's hand and finally forgiving him, Blanca climbed onto his lap. Natalia could see how tenderly the man treated the dog, and honestly, it was very pleasant to watch. They talked about everything, discussing dogs, the weather, and even the latest movie. They managed to have 2 cups of coffee after their lunch dinner when Natalia suddenly realized, "Oh, I have work tomorrow, and I haven't unpacked my things yet. I'm sorry, I have to go. We'll walk you out with Blanca Nieves." Blanca was in a good mood and even agreed to walk a little, albeit a very short distance. "Have you just moved in?" "Yes, I rented an apartment. I want to try living on my own." "That's commendable. Independent living is great." Natalia felt like Romano was somehow pleased about something, and she looked at him cautiously. Romano noticed her gaze and laughed. "Oh, don't think anything bad. Sometimes I just want someone to keep me company when I walk with Blanca." Natalia laughed too. "I'm sorry, my mom taught me to be suspicious of everyone, but I will definitely change." Romano looked at her. "So, you're not refusing me?" "No, of course, I can't walk with you every day since I do have work, but sometimes I would gladly join you." "Well, in that case, you must give me your phone number." Natalia smiled and handed him her business card. Sales department manager, Natalia. "Oh, what a trendy name." "That's right, the name became trendy, but the essence of the job remains the same." "Good night to you." "Goodbye, Blanca Nieves." Natalia kissed the dog on the nose, and it seemed a bit shy. Natalia rushed into her new apartment, slammed the door, and leaned her back against it. Can you believe it? Just one day of freedom, and she had already met such an amazing person. It's strange though, if he invites her for walks, he's alone, so why is Blanca accustomed to women's hands? Well, never mind, she wouldn't seek answers today. She urgently needed to unpack and get some rest. But it didn't go as planned. The phone in the room started ringing. The ringtone was set for Natalia's mom. Mom, she prepared herself to listen, feeling doomed. But her mother's words were short. Don't let your feet be at home anymore. Natalia didn't even have a chance to reply before her mother hung up. She shrugged. Better this way than listening to her being ungrateful for a whole hour. Just as she picked up her bag, the phone rang again. She thought it was her mother's since she hadn't said anything earlier, and now it would start, but it was Carla. Hi. How's it going there, all settled? No, I just grabbed my bag. Really? What have you been up to? You won't believe it, I went for a walk with a little dog and its owner. There was silence on the other end of the line, then Carla continued. Well. You're something else. First day without supervision and you're already strolling with dog owners. Just one dog. What difference does it make? Tomorrow, first thing in the morning, you'll tell me everything, all right? All right, I'll tell you. Can I unpack my things now? Now you can, go ahead and unpack. Natalia was almost going insane. For the next 2 hours, she unpacked her things, made the bed with fresh linen, dusted the room. She didn't feel like eating, so she made herself a cup of coffee with milk and sat on the bed, in front of the TV. All of this was so unusual, coffee in bed, a TV that actually spoke instead of showing silently like it usually did in her room. God forbid her mother heard it, then she would scream like a victim, all because she gets tired at work and can't fall asleep when there's a working TV somewhere. Natalia liked that her neighbor enjoyed the same channel as her, and the old lady downstairs was a bit hard of hearing, so her volume was enough for Natalia to understand what was being said in the movie. She had just relaxed when her phone sneezed. She couldn't help but smile because it was Carla who set such a melody for an SMS. Natalia took her phone, opened the SMS, and almost dropped her cup. It said, "Good night, tamer of mischievous dogs." Natalia felt her lips involuntarily forming a silly smile. She placed the half-empty cup of coffee on the floor. To hell with it, she'll clean it up in the morning and lay down in bed. She held the phone close to her and quickly typed, "Thank you, and good night to you and Blancanieves." In the morning, as she was drinking coffee, her phone sneezed again. Natalia grabbed it and burst into laughter. It was Blancanieves, peacefully sleeping under the blanket on the big bed, with the caption, "Her Majesty does not wish to get up for work." Natalia arrived at work in a great mood, and Carla was waiting for her at the entrance. "Oh, my friend. What's up with your eyes?" "What's up with my eyes?" "They're like two spotlights illuminating everything around." "Oh, Carla, where do you come up with such lofty words?" "It's not about the words. Come on, tell me everything quickly. Don't even think about it." "Carla, my dear, for minutes before the start of the workday, let's do it during lunch. I promise I'll tell you everything." Carla pouted her lips, and Natalia sighed, realizing that in 3 or 4 minutes she had to tell everything, or Carla wouldn't forgive her. "Carla, where is yesterday's report?" The boss loomed ominously in the doorway of Carla's department. Carla paled, then blushed. "Senor Morales, I left it with the secretary." "Come with me." Carla shot an angry look at the laughing Natalia and managed to say, "I'll wait for you at the cafe during lunch." She immediately turned around and hurried after her boss. And Natalia took a deep breath, but as it turned out, in vain. She had barely opened the door to her department when she saw her mother. "So you even deigned to come to work? I thought you had disappeared into the back alleys." "Mom, what are you doing here?" "Came to see the person who traded their family for food." "Mom." Natalia even stomped her foot, not letting her mother finish the vulgar word. "You've seen me? Now please go, I need to work." Her mother looked around angrily. Natalia had never allowed herself to speak to her like that, and now Senora Arias thought she might lose the verbal battle. "Fine, just don't think that a mother will let you sink down." When the woman left, slamming the door loudly, the girls, Natalia's colleagues, rushed towards her. "What was that? Did you run away from your crazy mom?" "I did." It was a commotion. Everyone congratulated Natalia as if she had won a huge prize. Time flew by unnoticed until lunch break. 3 minutes before it started, Carla was already standing at the door. They walked down the corridor, and Natalia unconsciously quickened her pace. They worked in different offices, so once they reached their respective offices, Carla wouldn't bother her. But her cunning plan was quickly deciphered by her friend. "Natalia, let's go," the girl sighed as she folded the papers. Carla wouldn't give up until they were on their way to the cafe. Natalia needed to condense her recent adventures into a few minutes of storytelling. First, Carla asked, "Did I imagine it this morning?" "I heard Senora Arias' voice." "No, you didn't imagine it. She was here and tried to tell everyone that I was heading down a slippery slope." "Wait, what?" "Yeah, and she used foul language too." "Senora Arias, using foul language?" "Exactly." "Wow. So, does that mean she won't let you live in peace?" "I have no idea, but now I know for sure that I won't go back home." They sat down at a table and placed their orders. "Now, I want to know everything about the most interesting owner and the most interesting dog." "Her name is Blancanieves." "And his?" "His name is Romano." Carla rested her cheeks on her hands, as if indicating that she was ready to listen to it all. Natalia had to tell her everything. They barely had enough time during lunch. Just before they reached the door, Carla asked her, "Tell me, did you like this Romano?" "Carla, where's the sales report for the past week?" Natalia had never been so relieved by the appearance of her boss. She was ready to kiss him for showing up at the right time. "Well, Senor Morales," Carla sighed and followed him, while Natalia stuck her tongue out at her. And Romano disappeared. Natalia was waiting for his call, his text message, but the phone remained silent. Occasionally, her mother would call and pour a stream of moral filth over her head. Natalia listened silently and disconnected without saying a word. She was getting used to the fact that her mother's shouts hadn't disappeared, they just became more like background noise on the radio. Someone was talking, but what they were saying didn't matter at all. 2 weeks had passed, and the girls hardly saw each other because it was time for the semi-annual reports, the time of intense sales, and, in general, the clients had gone mad. The flow had increased, and along with the increase in regular clients came an increase in dissatisfied ones. Both Natalia and Carla were running around like snakes. Sometimes they didn't come home until midnight. Finally, the reports were submitted, all the clients were satisfied, everything was going well. And most importantly, they were awarded a very nice bonus. Natalia and Carla decided to celebrate this event at the same cafe where Natalia once had lunch with Romano. "You seem really down. Are you tired, or maybe you missed the owner and the dog?" "Carla, don't talk nonsense. We only met once. What does he have to do with anything?" "Well, I don't know, my friend. It seems to me that even when you lived with your mom, you were happier." Natalia sighed. "It's just strange. He suggested it himself, he asked me to walk with him, he sent me text messages, and then he just disappeared." "Did you call him yourself?" "No, are you crazy? What would I say to him?" Natalia looked at her friend with wide eyes. She picked up the phone several times, but couldn't come up with a reason to call. What would she say? "Hello, where did you disappear?" And would he laugh or tell her it's none of her business? Of course, Romano would probably never say that, but it still felt awkward. If only they had met a few more times, but it was just once. "Well, I don't know, what if something happened to him?" "Well, then I'd better not know about it. Maybe he's even married, and here I am daydreaming." "So, you did daydream after all?" Natalia smiled. "Let's start celebrating already, my dear Sherlock." At that moment, Natalia's phone sneezed in her bag, and the girls laughed. "Well, Carla, I'll change the melody today." "Natalia, no need to. It's so funny. Probably your mom is all puffed up again." Natalia took out her phone and couldn't believe her eyes. She received an SMS from Romano. "Natalia, please forgive me. I had to leave urgently and take the traitor Blancanieves with me. She just can't live without you. She told me to call you. Where are you?" The girl smiled, and Carla immediately said, "No, it can't be." "It might, Carla," and she began typing a response. "I'm at the cafe, with a friend, at the same place where we were." "Well, will he come?" "Carla, I don't know, stop it." Of course, Natalia really hoped that Romano would come, but on the other hand, he might feel shy since she wasn't alone. Well, or he simply didn't want to intrude. No matter how much she waited for him, how much she glanced at the pathway, she didn't understand where Blancanieves came from when the dog leaped onto her lap. Natalia was so happy that she didn't expect it from herself. And Carlo was already looking around with interest. "Ah, you've got a real catch, my friend." "Carla, stop it immediately." "Okay, I'll be quiet." "Well, handsome guy." Romano approached their table. "Good evening." Natalia caught her breath. He looked so good, she had never seen such men before. Not just handsome, but with a masculine beauty. There was nothing soft about him, everything was manly and solid, and altogether it was just amazing. Romano turned out to be a joker and a funny guy who knew thousands of funny stories. After dinner, they went to see Carla off, and Romano, trying not to make it too noticeable, kept glancing at Natalia. He didn't expect that he would be so happy to see her. They said goodbye to Carla and started heading back. Of course, Blancanieves was tired. She had been snoozing sweetly in Romano's arms for a while. "Natalia, please forgive me for disappearing so suddenly. Sometimes business trips happen. I didn't call you because I thought my absence or presence wouldn't be of interest to you. Well, it doesn't matter. And I was worried, didn't understand if you even stopped walking the dog." I wanted to call. Why didn't you call? It felt awkward, somehow. Romano smiled. Did you know that everyone has their perfect match? Well, who doesn't know that? So, the thing is, those matches rarely find each other. You know why? Probably because they live far apart? Oh no, that's a common misconception. It's just that they hesitate, they feel uncomfortable, they don't want to come across as pushy. So, they pass by each other. Natalia smiled. Admit it, you just made all of that up. I confess, they laughed, drawing the attention of a tipsy group that was sitting not far from their pathway, right on the grass. Hey, hold on. Natalia trembled, and Romano stopped smiling. There were 3 guys and a girl with them. They stumbled their way toward them. Natalia whispered, "Let's run," but it was too late. Romano handed Blancanieves to her and positioned himself as a shield. "What do you guys want?" One of the approaching guys grinned, revealing a gap where a tooth should have been. Well, look at these pretty, clean faces. Who's going to spare some money for the needy now? Romano smirked strangely. Guys, you better leave before something happens. Oh, someone is objecting. Someone must be really greedy. And greed needs to be treated in a radical way. The girl who was with them burst into loud laughter, apparently thinking that the word radical was some kind of new insult. What happened next unfolded so quickly that Natalia didn't even have time to get scared. The toothless guy lunged at Romano, and another one went for her. Romano swiftly sent the toothless guy flying with a single blow and managed to grab the other one. At first, the guy was taken aback, but then he pulled out a knife. The girl started shouting, "Pedro, stop it, please, stop." She tried to stand in front of Pedro, but it didn't go well. Pedro waved his hand, attempting to push her away, but completely forgot that he was holding a knife. The girl grabbed her injured shoulder, and Pedro instantly sobered up. "Rita." Romano pushed away the guy he was holding and said, "Natalia, let's walk quickly now." They walked, and nobody paid them any attention anymore. The guy whom Romano sent flying was just starting to come to his senses, and 2 others bent over Rita. When the rowdy group was far behind them, Natalia took a breath. That was quite an adventure. Yeah, it's a lively neighborhood. They arrived at Natalia's home, and she herself didn't realize how she asked, "Romano, would you like some coffee?" "I'd love some." They laughed. Their relationship progressed rapidly. One could say that Romano swept Natalia off her feet. Within a month, he said to Natalia, "I don't understand why I have to sleep on a short couch when I have a huge house with normal beds. Romano, this is your home, dear, let everything stay as it is for now." Natalia knew that it had been too little time, but she also knew that she was madly in love with Romano. And she felt the same from him. Romano didn't take any decisive steps towards furthering their relationship, so she decided to simply enjoy the present. Some people date for years before getting married. However, things didn't turn out as smoothly. Well, not as smoothly as for others. One day, when Carla and Natalia were having lunch at a cafe, Natalia suddenly turned pale and rushed to the restroom. Carla watched her with an alarmed gaze, and an equally alarmed waiter appeared beside her. "Excuse me, is everything okay with your companion? Maybe something is wrong with the dishes?" Carla shrugged in confusion. "No, everything seems fine. We ordered the same thing." Natalia returned a few minutes later. She was so frightened that Carla immediately guessed what had happened. "Does Romano know?" The girl shook her head negatively. "No." "Why?" And Natalia suddenly burst into tears. "You know, even though I love him deeply, and he loves me, he has never, not once, even attempted to talk about a future together and all that. Sometimes I think he has no intention of getting married. And now I'm pregnant. It's like I'm forcing myself on him, pressuring him." Carla tapped her fingers on the table. "Don't say such foolish things. You just need to talk to him." "About what?" What do I say to him? Romano, why don't you want to marry me? Damn it, but something needs to be done. It does. They fell silent for a moment, then Carla asked, What about your mother? Don't even mention it. She calls, mostly before payday, and uses such language to describe me. You know, sometimes I feel like you're not even related to her. I feel the same way myself. The phone in Natalia's bag sneezed. Oh my God, when will I ever change that ringtone? Carla smiled. Natalia had been threatening to change the ringtone to something more decent for half a year now. Natalia took her phone, read the message, looked at Carla with a strange expression, read it again, and immediately jumped up. Carla looked at her in surprise. What happened? Blancanieves got lost. The girls rushed out of the cafe, caught a taxi together, and headed to Romano's place. He looked bewildered. I don't understand how it could have happened. We went out for a walk, and then suddenly, a dog on the other side of the road barked. Blanca got scared. Where was this? It was in our park. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's go there. The three of them searched the entire park. Carla went to print out pictures of the dog and hung them with phone numbers everywhere she could. Carla left earlier, and Natalia and Romano, disappointed, walked home. They didn't feel like talking. Occasionally, they called out for Blancanieves, peered behind bushes, but it was all in vain. They entered the gate, and Romano, who was walking ahead, suddenly stopped. Naturally, Natalia bumped into his back. Look, exclaimed Romano. On the porch, stretched out, slept a tired Blanca. Her little red bow was lost somewhere, but the dog was safe and sound. Blancanieves, we almost went crazy searching for you. She lifted her head, recognized Romano, stood up, approached them, and waited to be picked up before closing her eyes again. Romano, you said Blanca is used to female hands. May I ask whose hands? You can, it's my wife's hands. Wife? Natalia felt the ground sway beneath her feet. Natalia, she's no longer here. First, she cheated on me, then she ran away, and then, presumably, she died. Died? Romano sighed. Let's go inside, I'll tell you everything. They entered the house. Romano took Blanca to her spot, and Natalia brewed some coffee. Romano sat opposite her. Olivia and I got married young. I had just turned 21, and she was only 19. We had no one to dictate to us. I was already earning a decent income myself, and Olivia didn't care about anyone's opinion. We lived together for 4 years when I caught her with my friend. Honestly, I wanted to kill her, but at the last moment, I changed my mind. I told her to pack her things and leave my house within 2 hours. And I left. She cried so convincingly, pleaded with me that she was not at fault, that the only one to blame was me and my friend, of course. I barely escaped. Olivia took everything she could, including money and cards. I didn't care, I wasn't sorry. The main thing was to have no one around who could betray me so cruelly. Then, for some time, I received text messages about how she was enjoying herself on a resort, spending money. And then, maybe you remember, a few years ago, there was an explosion in a hotel. Well, that's where my wife was. There were no traces of her found at all, just like several other vacationers. I was granted the status of a widower and firmly decided that I would never marry again in my life. I understand what you're thinking right now. Maybe things will change. But we're already happy together, aren't we? Natalia didn't know what to say. Right now, she felt like she had been punched in the gut, and how could she say in this situation that she was pregnant? Romano, I'll go home. He looked at her in surprise. Why? I'm not feeling well today, the whole day. Then, even more reason to stay with me. And besides, we need to return your apartment to the landlord. No, Romano, today I'll go home. He couldn't persuade her, and Natalia could only think about one thing, to quickly get to bed, collapse, and cry. In the morning, Carla looked at her swollen, tear-filled eyes and asked, "As I can see, you talked? And what did he say?" "Nothing. He said that marriage is not in his plans." "Did you tell him about the pregnancy?" Carla, of course not. Natalia roughly summarized their conversation to Carla, who fell into deep thought. "Well, on one hand, you can understand him. But I think it's wrong to hide from him that you're pregnant." "No, Carla, I've made up my mind. I won't say anything so he doesn't think I planned it all." "Then what will you do?" "I don't know yet. I can't decide." In reality, Natalia had already made up her mind. She just didn't want to tell Carla. She knew that Carla wouldn't just disapprove, but would also try to dissuade her. And maybe even take Romano's side. At home, Natalia carefully prepared for the conversation. She rehearsed it several times before calling Romano. "Romano, I've been thinking, and I've decided that I don't need these kinds of relationships. I've met a good guy, and we'll get married soon. I wish you happiness. Goodbye." Now she needed to leave the house. She knew Romano well. He would be here in 10 minutes. Natalia went outside, sat in the far corner of the yard on a bench under a bush. From here, she would be able to see Romano leaving. 10 minutes passed, then 15, but there was no sign of Romano. It was strange. Could she have been so wrong about him? Natalia stood up and decided to take a walk in the park. As soon as she stepped out from under the arch, she saw a large crowd gathered on the road. It seemed like there had been an accident. A little bundle separated from the crowd and ran towards her. She gasped. "Blancanieves, how did you get here?" And then it hit her. She scooped up the dog into her arms and rushed over there. She arrived just as they were carrying Romano on a stretcher towards the ambulance. "Romano." Romano partially opened his eyes, smiled faintly, and then lost consciousness. Someone in the crowd said, "So young, with so much life ahead. Where did this drunkard come from?" They said his chances are slim. Natalia's vision darkened, and she rushed towards the doctor. "Which hospital are they taking him to?" The doctor grumbled without turning around. "To the regional hospital. Where else would we take them?" Natalia rushed home, calling Carla on the way. "Carla, come to my place. Blanca will be there. We need to take her to the vet. They were in an accident. I'll leave the key under the mat." "They? What about Romano? And where are you going?" "I'm going to the hospital, to him." "How is he?" "Not good, Carla. I don't really know anything myself. Please take care of Blanca while I'm away, and let our workplace know." She left Blanca at home and headed to the hospital. "Miss, you can't stay here right now. Go home. He's going to have surgery, and then he'll be asleep." "I'm not going anywhere. I'll stay here." The doctor shrugged wearily. "It's up to you." The surgery lasted for 2 hours, and then Romano was transferred to the intensive care unit. In general, it wasn't as serious as initially thought. There was significant blood loss, but it was manageable. The important thing was that everything was done in time. The doctor checked on Romano a few times, and the young man's condition was satisfactory. In the evening, after his shift, the doctor was preparing to leave when he saw that girl again. Well, she didn't leave. Just sitting there. He called a nurse over. "Give her a gown and shoe covers and escort her to her fiancé. Otherwise, she'll keep sitting here." Stubborn. Romano realized that he needed to run, to go. He couldn't let Natalia do what she had planned. What an idiot he had been, stubborn like a goat. How was Natalia anything like Olivia? Absolutely nothing. And why the hell did he say all those things to her directly? "I won't marry you." Of course, no girl would like to hear that. He needed to tell her that he was wrong, that he didn't think that way at all. And, above all, he wanted to spend his whole life with Natalia. He was certain of it now. Damn, where was Blancanieves? She was in the car with him. Romano stirred, and then he felt a cool hand on his forehead. "SHH, Romano, calm down. Everything is fine, don't worry." "Natalia," he whispered her name with his lips. "Yes, it's me, with you. Rest, you need it right now." "Blanca?" "Blanca Nieves is with me, Carla is taking care of her. She's fine." "Natalia, can you hear me?" "Of course, I can hear you." "Natalia, marry me." He didn't finish his sentence, he fell asleep, and Natalia pressed his hand against her lips and burst into tears. A few days later, Romano started to feel better to the point where he could sit up on a pillow. "Natalia, when I stand up, I will definitely kill you." Natalia smiled. "Why is that?" "Well, why not? Who's brave enough to have you as their bride?" She sighed. "There's no one, Romano. I just wanted us to break up quickly." "But why?" "Okay, I heard you, I'm an idiot, but we could have broken up later." "Why quickly?" Natalia sat silently, staring at one spot. He reached out his hand. "Natalia, answer me, why quickly?" She looked up at him, her eyes filled with tears. So that you wouldn't notice and think that I did it on purpose, that I wanted to force you into marriage." Romano looked at her in confusion. "I don't understand, what did I not notice?" And then, apparently, it dawned on him. "You. Natalia, are you pregnant?" "Yes, I wanted to tell you that evening, but you told me that." "You said." For about 5 minutes, Romano was silent, then he said, "Wow, I'm going to be a father. Natalia, now for sure, I will kill you. But after you give birth, how could you think that I would let you go? You and our child." "I don't know, you said it like that, you know, I couldn't say anything to you. It would have been like forcing it on you. You said no, and I said yes, I'm pregnant. Let's agree that from now on, we will always talk to each other about everything we think and feel." "Okay, Romano." They submitted their marriage applications on the first day after Romano's discharge from the hospital. "Natalia, while I was in the hospital, a lot of work piled up at my job. Maybe you should move into my house so that we can see each other more often." She smiled. "All right, Romano, I'll move in." Carla was ecstatic for Natalia, even more than Natalia herself. "Natalia, you see, you made such a fuss for nothing." "Carla, I'm so happy. Will you invite your parents?" "Oh, I don't know. I understand that I should, but if my mother says something." "But Romano already knows everything about her." "Yes, I told him everything." "Then don't be afraid of anything. The wedding promised to be not just lavish, but extremely lavish. Natalia's dress alone cost several times her salary. She understood that Romano had no issues with money, but why waste them like that? "My bride will be in the most beautiful dress, and that's not up for discussion." 2 weeks before the wedding, Natalia finally gathered the courage to visit her parents and invite them to the wedding. The mood immediately soured, but not inviting them was not a humane option. Romano suggested going with her, but she adamantly refused. "No, Romano, I'll go alone." Her mother opened the door. She looked at Natalia in surprise and immediately launched an attack. Look at her, crawling in. Tired of wandering around the alleys? Her father came out of the room. "Why are you shouting for the whole building to hear? Natalia, come in." Natalia looked gratefully at her father. "The neighbors will start opening their doors. It's been a while since we had a concert." "So, what brought you here? Nothing to live on? Drowning in debt or something?" Natalia sighed wearily. "Mom, Dad, I brought an invitation to the wedding." Her mother took the invitation. "Whose wedding?" "Mine." Her mother opened the invitation. "Are you kidding? What wedding? Who would marry you? Who needs you?" "Oh, I can't, look, at the best restaurant." "Stupid joke." "Mom, This is not a joke. Anyway, I've passed on the invitation. Whether you come or not is up to you. Natalia slipped out of the door and let out a sigh of relief. Maybe only in their family did leaving their parents' house make you want to run as far away as possible. Her parents came to the wedding, and Natalia was surprised to see her mother smiling. The smile made her look 15 years younger, exactly. And in general, her mother didn't say anything about the dress or the hairstyle. Although Natalia expected criticism, her parents seemed to enjoy the celebration, but towards the end, when the guests started to leave, they approached her and Romano. "Natalia, can we talk, the two of you?" On the terrace. Natalia looked at her mother in surprise. She had never heard that tone from her before. They all went out to the terrace, and Senora Arias began speaking. "I once had a sister who wasn't well behaved. She drank, partied. I did everything I could to stop her. We got married with Oscar, but we both focused only on her. Our parents left us early, and Ninka seemed to lose her mind. Then I became pregnant and decided I had had enough. It was time for me to focus on my own life and not be responsible for a grown, foolish girl. And then, she appeared drunk, holding a baby in her arms, and nobody knew where she gave birth." Senora Arias' voice choked, and Oscar put his hand on her shoulder. "She said she didn't want to live like that anymore. She handed me the baby and went to the balcony. Oh, if only I knew why she went. Well, I lost my child. The doctors said I could never have children again. I resented you, but I couldn't leave you in an orphanage. After all, you are my blood. 8 months later, we took you, and my personal hell began. I was convinced that you would be just like your mother. I didn't believe a single word you said. I watched your every move. I felt like I was going crazy. Sometimes, I wanted to kill you, so I wouldn't live in constant anticipation of your downfall. By the way, Natalia, all the money I took from you, I took them so you wouldn't have anything to indulge yourself with. They are all on the card that I put in the envelope for you. Now, I feel relieved, maybe because now your husband is responsible for you, not me. Forgive me, if you can." Natalia quietly cried. Romano looked slightly stunned, holding his wife close. Senora Arias turned around and walked away from the terrace. "Mom." The woman turned around abruptly. Natalia rushed towards her. "Mom, I'm not angry. Who knows, if you hadn't behaved that way, I wouldn't have grown into who I am now." She hugged Natalia, probably for the first time in the last 10 years, and started crying. Romano sniffed. "Is it our wedding today or what? Why does everyone keep crying all the time?" Neither Natalia nor Senora Arias ever mentioned that conversation again, but their relationship became wonderful. They would call each other. It was Senora Arias who bought the first baby suit when Natalia was only 5 months pregnant. She couldn't resist. "It's so cute." Katie also visited them frequently and always sighed. "Oh, Natalia, you're so happy, it made me want to get married too. And have a baby bump too." Natalia laughed. "I can lend it to you for a couple of days, you'll quickly change your mind." They laughed, and Natalia felt that now, for sure, nothing bad would happen in their life. But life never goes without bumps. "Natalia, I'm telling you that you're the most beautiful." Natalia smiled. Today was a day that anyone would dream of. They were celebrating their 10th wedding anniversary. Romano immediately said that there would be no home gatherings, only a restaurant. And the best one, at that. Natalia knew it was useless to argue, and she didn't want to. In the 10 years she has carried Romano's last name, many things have changed in their lives. Romano has a huge company, she takes care of the house and their daughter, but Natalia managed not to lose herself. She looks even better than when they first met. Today, she was absolutely stunning. Her long silver dress accentuated her matte skin, and the intricate hairstyle with beads and pearls made her look even more slender. Although she hadn't gained a single extra kilogram during that time. There were more than 30 guests, and everyone admired and didn't forget to tell Romano what lovely girls he has. Daddy, when will they bring the cake? You want cake? No, Daddy. Do you think I'm a little one? I just need to take a photo of it. Romano laughed. For their wedding anniversary, he had prepared gifts for his girls. For Angelina, he gave her exactly what she had been dreaming of lately. She had been dreaming of a professional camera, and they hadn't bought it for her not because they couldn't afford it, but because it was big and heavy for a 9-year-old girl. Now they smiled as they looked at their daughter. A wide black belt with a camera hanging from it looked a bit silly on her pink voluminous dress. But Angelina categorically refused to part with it and even said, "We'll see whose photos turn out better, mine or your photographer's." Romano even thought to himself, "Well, you never know, maybe Angelina has found her calling. She has been attending art school since the 1st grade, and her teachers praise her a lot. Sweetie, the cake will be brought out in about an hour. If you want more details, you can ask the hostess, she'll tell you everything." Angelina sighed. "No, I'll wait, no problem." And she walked away, slightly leaning to one side because the camera was pulling on her shoulder. Natalia saw a woman and a young boy, about 15 years old, walking towards them through the hall. For some reason, her heart started beating heavily when she saw them. "Romano, I don't know these people. Are they from your company?" Romano finally tore his gaze away from his daughter and looked to where Natalia was pointing. He turned pale suddenly and even stumbled. "Romano, what's happening? Who are they?" He remained silent for a moment, then forced the words out. "That's Olivia, my ex-wife." "What? But she's dead." "Yes, but she doesn't look like a ghost." Meanwhile, the woman approached and stopped. "Well, hello, husband." "Hello, but I haven't been your husband for a long time. Whether or not you're my husband will be decided in court." The woman took the young boy's hand. "Let me introduce you, this is your son, Andres." Natalia felt like everything around her was darkening. A son, his own son. But Romano said nothing. Although, considering the boy's age, Romano himself might not have known anything. A son? Mine? It was painful to look at Romano. Of course, what's so surprising about that? Moreover, he was born when you were still married to me. So now you'll have to pay for all the years you didn't support him. Why did you come after all these years? I wasn't needed by you. You were perfectly fine spending time with other men. Well, that's ancient history, and I won't explain anything to you. But recently, I saw your picture in a magazine. Unbelievable, a loser like you got married and even achieved something in life. I think it's unfair. You owe me a lot, and even more to our son. Have you forgotten how much money you took from my house? Back then, it was my house. What are you planning to do?" The boy turned to his mother. "Mom, can I?" He looked at Romano as if Romano were his archenemy. "We're planning to sue. At least part of all this belongs to me, not to these strangers surrounding you, who were born long after me." Romano couldn't find anything to say. His ex-wife Olivia and the presumed son turned and headed towards the door. He stared at the closing door for a long time, then turned to Natalia. "Natalia, what was that?" She didn't know what to say either. Blaming Romano for anything would be foolish. He had nothing to do with this situation, especially since he had honestly told her everything. What would happen now? Could this woman really ruin their lives? Angelina ran up to them. "Mom, Dad, there are people saying that I have a brother. Why didn't you tell me anything?" Romano finally snapped out of it. "Angelina, those people got everything mixed up. You don't have a brother, but maybe if your mother hears us, someday he might appear." Never before had a celebration felt so long. Natalia could see how difficult it was for Romano. And then a thought came to her mind. Maybe he remembered how good things used to be for him. Maybe his anguish wasn't entirely due to the situation, but because of seeing Olivia, but she dismissed those thoughts. It was enough to fill her head with all these foolishness. Right now, it was important to support her husband. Olivia appeared in his office the next morning. "Hello, dear." "I'm not your dear." Olivia laughed. "Oh, how things have changed. Saw your little wifey, although I don't know if she can still be called your wife now that you've found your lawful spouse." Romano remained silent. He had already called his lawyer, who was supposed to arrive soon. Olivia walked around the office. "You've done quite well for yourself. It's surprising how wrong I was. Turns out you can achieve something." Romano leaned back in his chair. "Olivia, why did you come here? Did your tough guy kick you out? Just need money or decided to ruin my life?" The woman laughed. "You choose the most suitable option, or even better, combine them all." Romano smiled too. "Frankly, I don't quite understand what you're hoping for. You're not entirely foolish, and you should realize that everything you've planned is complete nonsense. The only thing you can take from me is the child. Although, for example, I'm not even sure he's mine, considering that at the time, you were sleeping with my friend as well." It seemed like Olivia was thrown off balance. "Slept, didn't sleep. Your buddy had me wrapped around his finger. He managed to convince me that he could do everything, that he was capable, but in reality, he turned out to be a nobody. By the way, in bed too. I thought you two were deeply in love. He was so desperately looking for you. Romano, don't talk nonsense. I'm here for business. If you pay me that amount, then we'll leave with Andre." Romano looked at the sheet of paper and raised an eyebrow. "You're quite bold. How long should I wait before you come begging for money again? I didn't plan on coming back yet. Of course, I know people like you very well. Let's get back to our topic." But someone knocked on the door. "Yes, come in." Olivia frowned in annoyance. "We were in the middle of something, you know." "That's all right, it's right up our alley." The woman glanced nervously at the door as Romano's lawyer, Senor Gutierrez, entered the office. "Good day, may I sit down?" Romano stood up to greet the elderly man and pulled out a chair. "Please, have a seat, Senor Gutierrez. I have a feeling we'll be spending a lot of time together." The man turned to Olivia while unfolding papers on the table. "Well then, my name is Senor Gutierrez, and I'm ready to listen to all your claims and discuss all the issues." Olivia was taken aback. She was convinced that Romano would simply give her the money, and she and Andre would leave. Why do we need lawyers? And anyway, she stood up and turned to Romano. "So that's how it is?" "Well, it doesn't matter. Don't think I'll give up. Tomorrow, my lawyer will come to see you, and only after that, we can start talking." Olivia turned around on her heels and left the office, slamming the door. Senor Gutierrez looked at her in surprise, then turned to Romano. "This lady has something to hide, and we need to find out what it is very quickly." "Understood." Romano picked up the phone. "Security chief, come to my office quickly." They sat there for about an hour, discussing and taking notes. Meanwhile, Olivia roamed the city, looking for a lawyer who would agree to work on credit. Well, that is, until she received the money from Romano, then she would settle the bill immediately. The next day, Olivia didn't show up, and 2 days later, she finally found a lawyer. She didn't have time to inquire about his professional suitability, nor was she concerned about it. She needed to act swiftly before Romano had a chance to regroup and use his head. Besides, the lawyer was attractive, so Olivia, who had been without a man for several months, decided to make him part of her plan. 3 days later, the head of security returned. They gathered in the office once again, Romano, Senor Gutierrez, and the security chief. Olivia leads a very eventful life. After the incident at that hotel, she was searched for a long time, but from what I was able to find out, it's highly likely that she left the night before, without informing anyone, so as not to pay. By that time, she had already met a man with whom she lived for some time. He abused her, but she couldn't go back because she realized she had taken too much money. After 5 years, she finally left him. and became the mistress of an elderly businessman. It would have been fine, but the businessman was very possessive. After living with him for a while, Olivia took a large sum of money from him and left for another country. There she met another wealthy man and, attention, officially married him. Senor Gutierrez smiled. That's a very important detail. It's good that you paid attention to it. The head of security nodded and continued. 3 years later, her husband dies under strange circumstances. She was questioned for a long time, but they couldn't prove anything. Olivia quickly squandered his fortune, surrounded by a bunch of young lovers. She even planned to marry one of them, but this time she failed. The boomerang came back, and now her lover takes away all the remaining money and disappears. She tried to find him, but she couldn't. The man sighed. One detail bothers me. Nowhere Olivia went, nobody knows about any son. Maybe she hid him to not scare away potential suitors, but it all looks very strange. It is indeed strange, although I don't think we should worry about it. It would be enough to do a DNA test. Meanwhile, Olivia approached the house where Romano lived with his family. She decided to talk to Natalia, just to tell her how Romano used to beat her, how he forced her to have an abortion. She had spent the whole night composing the story and believed it would work. Right now, the most important thing was to sow discord within the family so that Romano wouldn't have time for legal battles. Olivia desperately needed the money. If she couldn't find, or rather, take away Romano's money, she had no reason to return home. Her home would simply be taken away due to debts, all because of that scoundrel, her young fiancé. How could she have fallen for it? Olivia still couldn't understand. She was always the one taking advantage of others, but this time she felt so betrayed. And there was nothing she could do about it. She had given him access to all the money. There was simply no other way to keep him. The wait didn't last long. Natalia drove up to the gates just as they were opening, and Olivia approached her car. Anastasia, I'm sorry, could we talk to you? Natalia looked at her in surprise, then at the gates. You know, we have nothing to talk about. If you have any questions regarding our family, deal with Romano. She pressed the gas pedal and drove into the courtyard, leaving Olivia startled by the passing car. Well, you'll regret it. Olivia narrowed her eyes with anger and walked away. It seemed like it was time to take more radical measures. 2 days later, Romano called. Olivia, there's a DNA test scheduled for tomorrow. What kind of DNA test? We need to confirm that Andres is really my son. Nonsense, there won't be any DNA test. You should be ashamed to suggest such things. Why should I be ashamed? It's a standard procedure, don't you know? Of course, she knew, but she never expected things to have advanced so much in her homeland. Where she had lived, everyone said that everything here was backward and progress reached this place very slowly. Now she was lost. Honestly, she was lost even before, on the day she returned here. Everything had changed, everything was so modern, some things were much better than where she came from, overseas. She didn't expect this, but it was too late to retreat. Olivia was running out of time. Romano had no idea that she had received a call from where she used to live, warning her that the deadlines had passed, and they would come after her even to her historical homeland for the debt she owed. She couldn't sleep all night, and to make matters worse, Andres started whining. When are we going back? I don't like it here. He doesn't want to give you any money, so there's no point in waiting. Do you even understand anything? Sit quietly and do as you're told. Andres got upset and stayed in his room, refusing to come out. Olivia found the number of that same friend of Romano's, with whom she once cheated on her husband. Alex, you won't believe it. Olivia, is that you? Yes, it's me. Alex was so delighted that Olivia realized he hadn't forgotten her. Alex, I would like to meet with you. She prepared carefully, wearing her most beautiful lingerie, vibrant makeup, and her best dress. Alex was working as an ordinary employee in some company. Romano, in a fit of rage, had cut off his oxygen supply, and the man had to literally survive. Alex was astounded by the sight of Olivia. "You haven't changed at all, still as beautiful as ever." "You too, hardly changed," Olivia lied. Alex had become an ordinary guy. Nothing remained of the Alex she once knew, but that was good. That's what she needed. Because she had plans for Alex. Dinner at a restaurant, followed by a very passionate night, and Alex was at her feet. Romano and Senor Gutierrez sat in the hallway of a private clinic. "Well, Olivia, I understand that she's running late because she's trying to find a way out of the situation, but where is Natalia with Angelina?" Romano dialed Natalia's number once again. The phone was turned off. Did she forget to charge it again? That was typical of Natalia. The door to the clinic opened, and Olivia entered with her son. Romano raised an eyebrow, surprised. He was certain that Olivia would find a reason not to come. He stood up, and at that moment, his phone rang. It was Carla. Romano briefly thought. Strange, Carla rarely calls him. Well, it's not surprising, probably can't reach Natalia. Yes, Carla. Romano, something terrible has happened. Her screen turned his world upside down. Carla, what happened? Natalia is in the hospital, they were attacked. She's in critical condition, and Angelina. Tell me. Romano practically roared. She's missing, they took her. Romano rushed towards the exit but paused for a moment in front of Olivia. If you're involved in this, if anything happens to them, Olivia stepped back. Romano, what are you talking about? What happened? He didn't say anything more, just stormed out of the clinic. Andres looked at Olivia in astonishment. What was that about? She shrugged. I have no idea, but it works in our favor. She approached Senor Gutierrez. The DNA test didn't happen because of you. He looked at her intently but remained silent. The clinic door swung open, and a man, her lawyer, ran up to Olivia. Am I late? No, it seems we're just getting closer to victory. Romano ran down the hospital corridor, holding onto his phone tightly. The police, his security team, and anyone who could help were mobilized. Carla stood by the door to the operating room, crying, and Romano became even more terrified. Carla? Romano, it's bad. The attacker hit Natalia on the head from behind when she got out of the car to wipe the glass. What the hell, glass? Someone, it seems the same person, threw something at the glass, either paint or something else. Yes, the investigator had said something to Romano on the phone, but he wasn't listening. He needed to rally as many people as possible to search for his daughter. What are the doctors saying? No guarantees. Damn it. Romano punched the wall with force. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Romano, what's happening? I don't know, Carla, but when I find out, I'll tear apart whoever did this. His phone rang in his pocket, and he grabbed it. Yes, he listened for a while, then said, If anything happens to Angelina, I'll. But the line went dead, only short beeps could be heard. Carla looked at him. Who? Was it him? Does he want money? Romano? But he was already dialing someone else. 3 hours later, during which Romano paced the corridor, a doctor approached them. Romano rushed toward him. Doctor, what's the news? We did everything we could. She's young, of course, the wound is severe, but there is hope. Now we can only wait. It had been over 24 hours since Angelina disappeared. Romano looked like a ghost. Natalia hadn't regained consciousness. He finally arrived home, needing to think. Blanca greeted him. She wasn't the same Blanca Nieves who was present when Natalia and Romano first met, but she was of the same breed. Blanca Nieves had passed away 4 years ago. At that time, Romano had locked himself in his office and even shed tears, only to make sure no one saw. It was only last year that they decided to get a dog. They didn't even hesitate about the breed or the name. He sat down and petted the dog. Miss her, huh? She whimpered softly. Everything will be fine. We will find your owner, I promise. There was another task ahead. He needed to call Senora Arias. They had moved to the countryside 3 years ago, saying they wanted to live in nature in their old age. Hello, Senora Arias. Hello, Romano. We just came from the garden. The strawberries are amazing this year. Little Angelina will be thrilled. Romano remained silent, and Senora Arias fell silent too. Then, somewhat fearfully, she asked, Romano, did something happen? Yes, Senora Arias. Natalia was hit on the head yesterday. She's in the intensive care unit, unconscious. And Angelina. She was taken away. There was a rustling sound, followed by a dull thud, then Oscar's voice. Anna, what happened to you? Senora Arias's voice came through the phone. Romano, what happened? After listening to Romano, Senor Marin said, We're heading there. It had been a day already, and those who took Angelina hadn't called. Romano didn't know what to do. Everyone was searching for Angelina. They had already found the car she was taken in. It had been stolen an hour before the incident. There were no traces, except those of the owners themselves. Romano was going mad. The doorbell rang, and he rushed to it. He opened the doors. No one was there, only a white envelope on the railing. He grabbed the envelope. There was a piece of paper inside with a written amount. Immediately, his phone rang. And tomorrow, by evening, the money must be ready. Bastard, let me speak to my daughter. I have to know she's alive. Somewhere in the distance, he heard Angelina's cry. Daddy, take me home. Angelina, my dear, I will come for you, hold on. But the line started beeping. He slid down the wall and wept. Throughout the night, there were many people in Romano's house. His accountants were transferring money from all accounts to cash them out. Police officers were preparing him for the money exchange, and the head of security was deeply focused on something, drawing circles on a piece of paper. Senora Arias and Oscar arrived too. However, Senora Arias had to call an ambulance immediately, and she was sleeping now after receiving an injection. Romano approached the head of security. Ivan, what are you thinking? Listen, but it can't be a coincidence, Olivia's arrival and Angelina's disappearance. She has a solid alibi. She was interrogated. But she was interrogated. Maybe I should talk to her? But how? How we used to talk when we were young. You've lost your mind. Romano, we've known each other practically since childhood. Has my intuition ever let me down? No, but these methods. You can't wash them away later. We'll deal with that later. Right now, there's no time for sentimentality. Romano didn't know what to say. He would have talked to Olivia himself, but the investigators said they had interrogated her thoroughly. If Natalia regained consciousness, it would be easier, as she clearly saw the person who took Angelina. Ivan left, and Romano's phone rang. Your wife regained consciousness. She's asking for you urgently. Romano, along with the investigator, jumped into action. Within 15 minutes, they were at the hospital. Romano, where is Angelina? Natalia, I've mobilized the whole city. They will find her. They will find her? Natalia burst into tears. The investigator gently touched her hand. Did you see the person who took your daughter? Only from the side. They had a medical mask on his face. I couldn't make out much. Dark hair, but the only thing noticeable was his very large nose from the side. Andres overheard Olivia talking on the phone with someone named Alex. When he understood what it was about, his palms went cold. They took the little girl. How could they? When Olivia offered him an opportunity to earn money, he seized it, especially since it was a chance to return to where he had lived as a child. His mother took him abroad when she remarried. Her husband demanded that he forget his native language and call him Dad. Andres didn't want to, especially since this new husband would beat his mother, and then his mother died, so Andres simply ran away. For 3 years, he had been wandering as a vagabond, and then Olivia approached him. Yes, he was a vagabond, but he didn't want this woman, who had promised him so much, to inflict pain on people. He wanted to stay here, although Olivia didn't know about it. And he also felt that she simply wouldn't keep her promises, wouldn't give him the money, and wouldn't help. Andres quietly approached the door. Olivia spoke in a hushed voice, but he could make out the words. Some name, whether it was a street or a village. He silently rushed into the room and wrote down the name, then slipped out of the apartment they were renting. Andres found it difficult to navigate the unfamiliar city, so he decided to look for a hospital. He asked several passers-by and finally found what he needed. Long nose, damn it, it's Alex, 100%. Romano jumped up, and the investigator looked at him. Olivia met with her old acquaintance the day before the kidnapping, but he is her former lover. They spent the night together and parted ways. His name is Alexander. Romano grabbed his phone. Yvonne, it was Alex. We need to track all his movements, urgently. Yvonne didn't make it to Olivia's place. He turned the car around and headed to the office. Romano kissed Natalia. Relax, don't worry, everything will be fine. Romano, find her. He ran out of the hospital, almost knocking down a boy, and was about to get in the car but stopped. It's Andres, supposedly her son. What is he doing here? Romano jumped out of the car, grabbed the boy's hand. What are you doing here? He barked so loudly that the boy turned pale. I'm asking you. The investigator approached them. Romano, calm down. He's just a child. Romano released his hand, leaving red marks from his fingers. The boy was on the verge of tears. Here, he pulled out a piece of paper. What is this? I don't know. Olivia was talking to someone about you and mentioned this name. Romano grabbed the paper. It looked familiar. It was the name of a village, or rather a settlement, about 100 kilometers from there. Into the car, quickly, he pushed the boy into the car. The investigator ran with them while giving orders on the phone. Romano drove so fast that cars swerved in different directions. We have time to squeeze the truth out of you. Come on, kid, tell us everything. Andres spoke hurriedly, sharing everything he knew, everything that had happened to him, everything he had heard from Olivia. Romano gritted his teeth, and the investigator memorized the details. When a dacha settlement appeared ahead, Romano stopped. I'll go alone, God forbid we scare him off. Where are you going? There are over 100 houses here. Wait, in 15 to 20 minutes our people will arrive, and we'll thoroughly search everything. After an hour, they found the house where Angelina was most likely held. There was a car parked in front of the house. Within 5 minutes, the investigator confirmed that it belonged to his former friend. And a minute later, he appeared, or rather spoke up. Everyone left, otherwise I can't guarantee your safety. He showed the gun, and Romano's chest tightened. Alex, no one will harm you. Let the child go. Is it you? How I hate you. You always had everything, while I had nothing but scraps. You knew how much I loved Olivia. You knew that she didn't need a man without money. She took everything from me, and now it's your turn. I'll take everything from you. Romano walked forward slowly. Alex, don't be foolish. You understand that if you don't release Angelina, you will have nothing, ever. Don't come closer, or it will get worse. He pointed the gun out of the window. Romano could hear the hysterical tone in Alex's voice. Behind Romano, there was a sniper. He knew that, but he begged him to be very careful. Do whatever you want, Alex, just let my daughter go. Alex made a sudden movement, and Andres rushed towards Romano. A loud bang echoed, and Andres, who had taken the bullet, fell. At the same moment, a muffled sound came from behind Romano, and Alex hung from the window. Angelina ran out of the house, screaming, terrified. Romano grabbed her and held her close, trying to comfort her. He also tried to help Andres. "No, why did you do this? Hold on, boy." They were pushed away, and Andres was carried into an ambulance that arrived after the black police bus. "Daddy, Daddy." "It's okay, Angelina, everything is fine. Don't cry, it's all over." "Daddy, let's go to Mommy quickly." Natalia lay there, staring at the ceiling, tears slowly streaming down her cheeks. It was as if she had disconnected from the world with her eyes wide open. She couldn't bear to think about Angelina, it was too painful. If only she could, if she could get up, go, and search for her little girl. Natalia closed her eyes. "Oh God, I beg you, I implore you, please don't let my daughter disappear. Protect her until her daddy finds her, I beg you, Lord." She heard Angelina's voice, and Natalia closed her eyes even tighter, trying to hold onto that voice in her head for as long as possible. But the door slammed, ruining everything. "Mommy." Natalia jerked and saw her daughter. My little girl. 2 years had passed since those horrifying events. "Mom, will Aunt Carla come?" "Of course, she will come. You know that we always celebrate New Year's together." "I know, but she has so many things to do now." Natalia laughed. "But those are very important matters, and they don't interfere with the celebration. Tell me, did you prepare a gift for Andres?" "Of course, Mom. Dad really helped me." "Well, that's understandable. What did you decide to give him?" "Dad and I bought him the best electric guitar. You know that he got accepted into the band at the Lyceum. You've done a great job. I think Andres will be thrilled." A year and a half ago, Olivia was supposed to stand trial, but something happened. They found her dead in the pretrial detention cell. They said it was because of debts, but no one knew for sure. She was buried next to Alex, as Romano decided, and he said that this chapter of history was closed. A car stopped in front of the house. "Here are our guests." A crowd poured into the house, with Andres being the first. He had noticeably changed, transforming from an awkward teenager into a handsome young man. Although he struggled with his studies, his teachers said that with his efforts, he would be able to skip 2 grades in a year. Then Carla entered, carrying a huge belly, and Yvonne was the last to enter the house. They got married a year ago. Carla took care of Andres, and Yvonne helped. It just happened that when Andres got back on his feet, the 3 of them couldn't be separated anymore. They sat down at the table noisily. Carla couldn't fit in her seat, and Yvonne teased her. When it was time for gifts, Angelina and Romano left the room and returned with a large box. Romano spoke. "Andres, we met under strange circumstances, but I'm glad that we sorted everything out and realized that you are a good person." Andres blushed. "If it weren't for you, where would I be now?" Romano jokingly wagged his finger at him. "Don't interrupt your elders. So, now you have a real family, but there is something that should make you happier." Angelina smiled and handed him the box. "Open it." Andres carefully opened the box and froze. This. Romano smiled proudly. "Exactly. I was told that it's the coolest brand." Andres was on the verge of tears, and everyone could see it. "Thank you so much, thank you. Somewhere deep down, I'm even grateful to Olivia for introducing us." After exchanging gifts and sitting down at the table again, Carla smiled. "No, not this, not on December 31st. Yvonne looked at her with concern. "Carla, what's wrong?" "What's wrong?" "Your daughter decided to give a New Year's gift." "No." "What do you mean, no?" "Call an ambulance." Panic ensued. Yvonne was the most worried. He, a grown, healthy, serious man, now looked like a frightened child. Angelina sat him down on the couch. "Uncle Yvonne, sit here and don't touch anything while we wait for the ambulance." Everyone gathered around Carla. Ivan recovered from the shock a little and, at 10 p.m., got into the car with his wife. The four of them remained behind. Well, in 2 minutes it will be New Year's. Romano stood up. I suggest we all make a wish. Natalia's phone rang. Guys, she activated the loudspeaker. I have a daughter, you understand, I have a daughter. Carla, congratulations. Their shouts merged with the chimes, the clinking of glasses. Hooray! Andres was given a guest room to sleep in, Angelina was already fast asleep, and Romano and Natalia were clearing the table. Romano grumbled. Why did you give our housekeeper the day off? Natalia laughed. Romano, stop grumbling. Everyone has their own families. Such a holiday should be spent with family. Yeah, I understand. I'm just saying. After they finished cleaning, Romano poured champagne into glasses. We deserve it. Natalia smiled cunningly, took a glass, placed it on the table, and poured herself some juice. I have another gift for you. If you were more observant, you would have noticed that I've only been drinking juice today. Romano remained frozen, sitting and staring at the glass for a while, then he tossed it aside and jumped up. Natalia, my Natalia. Romano lifted his wife and spun her around. They all went to pick up Carla and her daughter, with the same group as before. Ivan was the most nervous, and Romano even laughed. How did you manage to become the safety chief? You're nervous as hell. It's easy for you to say, your Angelina is all grown up now, you've already been through it. Well, who knows what I've been through, I still have to go through it again. Ivan stared at them, then asked, Are you serious? Absolutely. Well, we won't lag behind with Carla, we'll even surpass you. Marquez, Ivan turned around, meet your princess. He walked towards the nurse with his arms wide open. She smiled and brought his hands together, placing a bundle on top of them. Ivan froze, as if afraid to even breathe. Then he pulled back a corner of the blanket. Oh Lord, how tiny she is, how beautiful. Andres stood off to the side, and when Carla came out, he even lowered his head in dejection. Carla noticed it first. She walked up to him and asked, What's the matter with you? Now you have someone to love. She hugged him. How silly you are if you think I won't have enough love for everyone. Come on, let me introduce you to your little sister. We still have to choose a name for her.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe.